state economies, and I worry that my income really isn't enough by itself long term for us both to have retirement. We live in a high-tax place, and this is not sustainable. Should I give him an ultimatum? I've suggested marriage counseling, but honestly, I don't want to give up the time and money it would cost me when it seems to me that in the end, the one who needs to change is him. Naturally, he's not a big fan of doing anything differently, so he's not amenable to counseling. But I feel the situation is not getting any better, and I'm out of ideas. Please help.
Well, I think some boundaries definitely need to be set, and some expectations. This, to me, that's kind of where all this goes to, is that it's expectations that we have that oftentimes we never express. I run into this a lot with some folks that I work with, that they have an expectation, and it's just something that they've never questioned. It's just a picture in their mind that this is what life is supposed to look like. And then when life doesn't look that way, then there's frustration. And sometimes there's difficulty verbalizing what's going on.
Right.
Because we don't think of it as an expectation. We just think this is the way life is.
Yeah.
So the problem then becomes when we don't communicate expectations.
Okay.
So like with her, like, what was the plan when he originally quit his job? Was there a talk about that?
Yeah.
Was there any kind of expectation set that, like, okay, I'm going to quit my job, since you can support us, what do you think about this?
Right.
Is this a mutual decision?
Right.
What is my plan? When do I hope to get back onto my feet? Things like that.
Sure. That's a good point.
I don't know if that conversation took place, and if it didn't, I think it definitely should now.
Yeah. Well, 4 months. I mean, 4 months is a long time, and I get that the economy can be a weird thing, but, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of levels to this. On one hand, there's this stereotype out there that men can feel insecure if their female partner out-earns them. And I get that. There's been a lot of times in my life, I've been married for a long time, and my wife was able to get 2 feet into her career kind of before I could get both feet into mine. And so there were several years there where she was out-earning me. But she also saw that I was moving my feet. Like, I was trying my best, and I was working 2 jobs. And so even though at the end of the day the numbers were different, she saw that the effort was there, and she interpreted my effort as affection for her and for our family and for what we were trying to do. And she would constantly tell me that, hey, I love you, you're a hard worker. I really appreciate that. And so one of the things I think is interesting in this marriage dynamic, Nick, is I don't hear the writer saying, this is just economics. This is just arithmetic, and I make X, and I really need him to contribute Y so we can purchase Z. I see her saying, there is this weird, foggy emotion that's happening, and it comes from the meaning that I give this, that he is not working and not trying, and I am active. I have a part-time job. I have my regular job. I volunteer. I pay attention to the news. What are you doing? And that becomes unattractive to her. For her, she's frustrated because of his stagnancy. And I think that is what's bothering her more than anything. And I feel like she has a right to that. And she's asking, should I lay out an ultimatum? I'm scared of ultimatums.
Right.
Nick has a golden rule about boundaries that
Yes.
you're not willing to enforce.
Yes. There's a difference between a boundary and an ultimatum. A boundary is for your protection. An ultimatum is manipulation to create motivation. Right. So an ultimatum is, you need to do this or else this is going to happen. And it's meant to motivate the other person and try to get them to go do something. A boundary is different in the sense that a boundary isn't about changing their behavior. It's setting an expectation of, if this continues, I can't continue to live this way.
Right.
If this behavior continues, I am going to do blank.
Yeah.
For my own good.
Yeah.
For my own protection. Because, when I read through this, a lot of these we have to edit down because they're really long.
Sure.
There's some other information in here as far as, just some stuff that, since he's not working, he does a lot of the cooking.
Right.
Which she appreciates and she values, but then states that he also spends a great amount of time playing video games.
Exactly.
So he'll go and cook and then go back to the video game.
Exactly.
and then cook dinner and then go back to the video game.
And I have a real beef with this, Nick. Like on a personal level, and you know how I feel about this. We've talked about this. Right. I get frustrated anytime somebody thinks they get to have early retirement because the other person's working. Like that, I just don't think that's the world we live in anymore. It's a dual income world, and I'm with the wife on this. She's like, hey, I know what the economy's like out there. This is not sustainable. This guy's living the dream, and I'm working really hard, and I get it, but one piece of advice I will give her that kind of pushes back on something she said. She said, well, I don't want to do marriage counseling, or I'm at least reluctant because it costs money. Let me tell you something, sister. Insurance doesn't cover divorce. Insurance doesn't cover divorce. And if you divorce your husband or give him an ultimatum and you lose that fight and he does leave for whatever reason, you're going to be making alimony payments because you're the one who has all that sweet, sweet money and he doesn't. So insurance doesn't cover that outcome. Insurance does cover marriage counseling. So you begin going to counseling. And if he says he's not going to go, you say, fine, I'm going to go. It's every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. I'm going to be there. When you're ready to be a husband and when you're ready to own this, you know where I'll be. Start that process now. And what will happen is the therapist can actually reach out to him by phone and say, hey, are you willing to just give me some information just so I get the other side of the story? And usually people want to get in there just to tell their side of the story. But you know what? Go anyway. That's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Yeah, get involved right now. Seek out help, even if he doesn't want to.
Yes.
Do it for you.
Yeah, that's what insurance covers.
Yeah. And I think, eventually these boundaries are going to have to be set. And having that guidance from a therapist on how to set those boundaries, that could be very valuable. So I just want to add one more thing. Jim is the type of guy who claps when the plane lands.
I do. Mostly it's tears of joy. I'm so scared. The type of guy. How did you come up with these Jim facts? These are great.
Yeah,
you just sat around and
just observing you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. All the times we've gone to Lululemon and Nickelback concerts.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Jim uses his turn signal in the drive-thru.
So, okay. I do. I actually do. Because there's a Starbucks that I go to every morning and the line is like all the way out in like the parking lot. And I've like lined up to get in there and then somebody else has darted in front of me and like gone first. And that outrages me. Like I will lay on my horn if you do that and I will ruin you. Like I'll make sure they can't hear the drink order, because I'll be so angry. And so I actually turn on my turn signal now to like let people know, like, I'm getting in here. You are getting in line. And Nick, you should be thankful for that because a lot of times I bring you coffee. So I do it for you, baby. That's why I will not let anybody take your coffee. I try to make sure I get there on time with Nick's favorite coffee. Nick, fun fact, Nick's favorite drink from Starbucks is the Very Berry Hibiscus tea refresher with a little twist of lime. And he demands that they put a smiley face on the cup.
Not insulting at all.
It's actually my favorite drink. My wife's listening to this going, what? You ordered that yesterday.
Jim pours the milk before the cereal.
That's a crime against God. Nobody does that. You remember when you were a kid and did you used to do that as a kid?
No.
Or did you ever do that and then realize what a bad idea that was and then learn the hard way that you should do cereal first?
No.
Really?
No, that thought never crossed my mind.
Did you ever as a kid eat all the cereal and you still had milk left over and you went and got cereal and like refilled the bowl with some more cereal to use up the rest of the milk?
Yeah.
Okay, so like that experience I think teaches you the hydrodynamics, right? Like how milk works. So interesting facts. Nick, did you have any more?
No, that's pretty much it.
Wow.
I think I got out everything I wanted to say.
Well, I want you to know that your declaration of war was received loud and clear. Loud and clear. And there will be some Nick facts that are coming up in the following episode. And you will rue the day that you have the flu or anything that stops you from being in this room. I'm so glad I came here today. I had no idea that you intended to do all of that.
It was going to be so much fun.
All of that libel, Nick. These are legally actionable things. So I will see you in court.
Sounds fair.
All right, that's all the time we've got for this week's session. Thank you to those who have contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by sharing this episode. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/podtherapy or on Twitter at podtherapyguys.
Do you want to add your own advice to today's questions or give us your thoughts? Post your thoughts at podtherapy.net and join the conversation. I'm Nick Tanchman.
I'm Art Garfunkel.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.